And I'd love to say, आप सभी को UN परिवार की तरफ से मेरा नमस्कार. India has a very progressive act, rights of persons with disabilities, but it's about, turning that language into reality and for people's lives. That's really the key.
আমার একটা স্বপ্ন থাকতে আমি চাকরি করে আমি জব করে অনেকে বাচ্চাতে সব ডিসিপ্লিন বাচ্চাতে সেটা জব করবে.
Durga Puja is a global brand, the largest public arts festival in the world. So we thought, what better way to demonstrate in real terms this inclusion, this universal design, testing it and creating practical guidelines for Durga Puja here in Calcutta.
Make Calcutta relevant again. You already know.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Make Calcutta Relevant Again, the podcast. Today, we have a very special episode lined up for you. So let me give you a bit of context on how this episode came into becoming a reality. I was at one of the previews of the Durga Puja this year with Massart. This is an organization that we've been supporting for the last 4 years since it took on this unique goal of showcasing the Durga Puja as the world's largest public art festival. You've already met a few people from Massart on the podcast before, including Shubho, Boka, and they've been tirelessly working towards changing this perspective of the Durga Puja, where from time immemorial, from since when we were kids, we've always heard, "Eta amar pujo, eta tomar pujo." This is mine, this is yours, this is our communities, this is our para's pujo. But it was never a joint messaging for the entirety of the Durga Puja itself. Now, Durga Puja is a very unique festival. It's not just a cultural festival. It's not just a religious festival. It's not just an art festival. It's not just a coming together of communities. It's all of that put together and so much more. And hence, this is something that has become the pride of our city and our state. And it's not, when something like this happens, it gets noticed. It gets noticed on a massive scale. And so for the last 4 years, every year, we've been organizing previews for people from outside of Calcutta who probably don't have a lot of context on the Durga Puja to come and experience it before it even begins and it gets open to the public. So this year, when the previews were happening, I got to learn about something very, very interesting, that Massart has been actively working with the United Nations in creating a model and a pilot for making these Durga Pujas more accessible. And the pilot this year was restricted to the 24 pandals which were selected by Massart's preview. And for this, a whole bunch of people worked on it together. And I figured, why don't we get all of them and talk to them on the podcast? Because this truly is a way in which, if taken from outside of just Durga Puja and applied to the entirety of our city as a whole, then it's something that can truly make Calcutta relevant again. I also believe this is the longest context I've ever given for any episode on the podcast. But
We're done.
Huh?
I think we're done.
We're done? Yeah, I think we can close the show. Let's go home, ladies and gentlemen. It's Ashtami. No, but I think by the time they're going to see the podcast, the Durga Puja season would have already been over, and they probably would not be wondering, why are we dressed like this? We just came from Puja pandals, guys. This is the reason. It's right bang in the middle of Durga Puja, and this is we just got all of these people only on a very specific date. So before going any further with my monologue, let me open up the floor. I'm going to first come to Mr. Shombi Sharp. When I first saw your name, I was actually confused because your name sounds like Shombu, and I was like, is it an Indian name? But it turns out it's not. You were born in Kansas City in the US, and you're the UN resident coordinator in India, and the UN Secretary General's representative in our country. Firstly, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you. Is this your first Durga Puja?
This is my very first Durga Puja.
Oh, God.
Yes. And so, I mean, really, this is amazing. And I'd love to say, आप सभी को UN परिवार की तरफ से मेरा नमस्कार.
Oh, lovely. Yeah, I think we feel very honored to have you with us here as well. Shombi, tell me a little bit about all the steps that ensured that this year we got to do a citywide accessibility drive for the pandals, for the selected pandals? Because I know the work with the UNESCO started already 4 years ago, when Masart has been a partner for UNESCO in organizing the previews. What has your role been into it, number one? How has that evolved, and how did making these pandals more accessible, which means wheelchair accessible for people with disabilities, how did that even happen? It's just it's a crazy idea to begin with. So I would love to know your perspective on that.
Well, I think it all starts with first of all just what we do in the world, the United Nations, and India as a member state.
What do you do? You know what? I am actually
exactly.
curious. What does the United Nations do? Just break it down.
Yeah. So I mean, to try to put it simply, the world came together, India very much included, to develop the Sustainable Development Goals, these 17 goals, to try to get us by 2030 to, on the path to the world that we want for us now and for the future generations. And one thread that sort of runs through all of these 17 goals, and that, education and health and poverty reduction, and you can imagine, I won't go through all of those, but a thread running throughout is what we call leaving no one behind. It's about inclusion. It's about universal design. It's that we should build everything and do everything with everybody in mind. And unfortunately, in most cases, we're not doing that at present. And we see, for example, festivals, which are, as you already explained so well, are an incredible expression of this intersection of everything about life, everything that is fun. And yet festivals often, I mean, not just in India and across
everywhere in the world, yeah,
are not accessible for persons with disabilities. And so we thought, first of all, Durga Puja became, an inscribed intangible cultural heritage in the UNESCO. 2021.
Yeah.
And we know that Durga Puja is, India has an incredible global brand. Durga Puja is a global brand within that, right? I think 40 different countries or something in the world celebrate
46
Durga Puja. 46, oh gosh, okay. The largest public arts festival in the world. So we thought, what better way to demonstrate in real terms this inclusion, this universal design, than testing it and creating practical guidelines for Durga Puja here in Calcutta. And so we partnered with, and actually the colleagues can say a lot more about the specifics of that, but UNESCO was in the lead. My UN Resident Coordinator's Office, we joined forces, and together with IIT Kharagpur and then with Masart, having such a great experience already with organizations of persons with disabilities here on the ground in Calcutta, to really test this hypothesis and show that it can be done. And we've done that now with 24, I think, pandals now in this Durga Puja. There are fantastic, the results are amazing. And there are plans to scale that up to something like 400, I think, next year as well. And, really, you just see the human element is transformational. And, we can, I was just at Tala Pratoi Pandal last night.
Well pronounced.
Thank you.
Yeah. We've taught you well, it seems.
But, just in a nutshell, and I've had now in my first Durga Puja, I'm on the second day. 2 days ago, I was in New York, by the way, at the General Assembly.
Right.
So if I'm a little jet lagged, that's my
You're doing
my
fine.
excuse.
We got you. We got you more coffee if
Yeah.
you want. There's an unlimited supply of coffee on the way. We'll
But
keep you up.
I thought, just the most powerful, story that I've heard in a long time at Tala Pratoi was that, a father bringing his daughter, who's a wheelchair user, to the puja, to the Durga Puja, and saying this is the first time in her entire life, she was 17 years old, that we could celebrate Durga Puja as a family. And that just, that just powerfully tells you what it's all about. Why did it take 17 years? Well, that's not the point. The point is now they can celebrate together as a family, and let's help expand that so that everybody can say that.
Incredible story, very moving. And I think for a father, I think that probably was the day that he realized what togetherness truly means. Because for a festival like Durga Puja, it's a time of family coming together. It's a time where you celebrate. You can't celebrate that by yourself. You have to have your friends and family together. And as a father, even if he was affluent, perhaps, it wouldn't have been possible in those crazy crowds to take their daughter into a pandal without a wheelchair access, right?
Exactly.
This was also the first time during the festival I saw Durga Puja pandals which had lifts. I've never seen it in my life. Just to imagine the transient nature of the festival itself, where everything is ephemeral. It lasts 10 days, and then all of it gets taken down. In a place like that, to have a temporary lift for people to be able to go from one floor, up and down. I think Baligarh Cultural probably had a lift. And for me, as an ardent Durga Puja lover and a Kolkata lover, all it did was fill me up with so much pride, And that's something that's been incredible. So thank you for partnering up with prestigious organizations like the IIT-KGP and Masart for bringing this to our city. I'll come back to you. I'm going to come to Dr. Hoymonti. So Dr. Hoymonti Mukherjee, Dr. Hoymonti Banerjee, I'm so sorry about that. Dr. Hoymonti Banerjee is a professor of architecture at IIT Kharagpur, and she specializes in urban planning, housing, and design. And I think I'm particularly interested in her context of what she envisions with taking what is happening now with the Durga Puja and applying it to the entire city as a whole. We know that Calcutta is not a super well-planned city, right? Public spaces, public infrastructure, these are not things that were thought about back in the day when Calcutta was being developed. So, of course, we don't have the best of what could be available in a Scandinavian city, for example, right? It's just not a reality for us. On top of that, this year during the Durga Puja, we saw the worst floods that we've possibly seen, I think in the last 30, 40 years maybe.
That's what they say.
Huh?
That's what they say.
That's what they say, right? In my life, at least I'm 34 years old, I've never seen a flood that bad in my city, where the entire city got choked and came to a standstill. Now, how do we, it's particularly special this year that something like this happened, because this probably proves your point home on why the need for a more accessible, inclusive city. So I want to hear from you. One, what are your plans? If, let's say, the keys to the city are in your hands now with what we are planning to do together, and hopefully we'll see where it leads us. I also want to hear something from your side, which is as a Bengali, what the Durga Puja also means to you, and whether it is fueled, your work with creating more access for Durga Puja and for the city in general, is fueled through your lens of being a Bengali or a proud Calcutta lover.
Sure. Thank you, Meg. Now, I think there were two questions that you asked. So I think one is that inclusive city. Another is that making a festival like Durga Puja inclusive. So now I am an architect and urban planner, and I have been, my specialization is on inclusion. I've been working for more than 20 years in this field. So I've done a lot of work with United Nations and NIUA, National Institute of Urban Affairs, where we have worked on inclusive cities, that what should be the inclusive city. What should be the requirements of an inclusive city. Now, when we started talking, like when UNRCO and UNESCO and I and the Masa team, we started developing this idea so that how to make this Durga Puja as a festival inclusive. So that's another dimension, because our city Kolkata changes. During a festival, our city changes. So, I mean, it's definitely an additional challenge. So there are two parts to it. So now for this particular work that we have been doing, so we were mainly focusing on the inclusivity or the accessibility of the pandals. We had considered the premises, the pandal premises. But, even if we create a pandal that is inclusive, and so they will be like islands if the city is not inclusive.
Very interesting.
I mean, as you just said, because what we talk about, as Shombi would agree, that when we are trying to not leave no one behind, we need to have an inclusive transportation system. I mean, if our metro rail is quite inclusive, is quite accessible, but I mean, there are so many other modes of transport. Like
how
Kolkata.
do the people even get from the metro rail to the pandal? Like that's another
Absolutely.
other level of
and
challenge.
metro is only Kolkata, and in Kolkata, we all know that during the puja days, we have people visiting from the entire West Bengal. I mean,
from the
Howrah.
entire country, from the entire world now.
Yes,
There's,
yes.
an estimated
Absolutely.
between 25 to 40 million people are visiting the Durga Puja.
That's the level of challenge.
Yes.
So even if so what I think that we should not stop here. So even if we are able to make the pandals inclusive, I mean, we have come up with all of us up together with our OPD partners, with UNESCO, with the MASAR, we have come up with a standard operating protocol which will make the pandals accessible. But I think we should keep it on, continue with that, and so that we can have integrate into the overall city fabric. And your next question, that how, as a Bengali, like all Bengali, we are very much connected to Durga Puja. And so, so what you just said, that a family, and it's as a family festival. So, I mean, if we are leaving our elderly people at home behind, we cannot get them to the pandal. I think that's something we all face this challenge at some point of time. So, I mean, maybe this initiative will help us in getting our entire family to the puja pandal. So that's what we think that, yes.
These are the guidelines, right?
These are the SOPs.
Professor Banerjee and the colleagues
this is the
helped
entire,
develop.
the effort of the entire
These are
team.
the standard operating procedures
Yeah,
for
yeah.
accessibility in the pandals.
Yes, so this is what we have come up with. Now, what we have done, enhancing universal accessibility during cultural festivals. Now, this time we have focused on Durga Puja. Because as you very rightly pointed out, the importance of Durga Puja as one of the world's largest public art festival. But now this is a protocol. I mean, if we are willing to experiment it for other cultural festivals also. Not only cultural festival, we might have for any such similar, where people are coming together. It may be a social festival, it may be any event, anything like that sort. So, but this is definitely, we have started with it, and as Shombi you just said, that we have already onboarded with the help of MASAR, with very able support from MASAR, we have onboarded 24 such puja pandals. And you were talking of the lift, and I think somewhere we have also got braille signage.
Braille signage. I
Yes.
think I had seen some even last year, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it was not done as a unified gesture across all of the preview
Yes,
pandals,
yes.
but this year probably was done as a more thought out
So
process.
we have also provided within this a glossary of braille terms, like say what is the braille interpretation of toilet, so that's how, so that is some kind of easy toolkit which the puja committees can easily adopt.
And in some cases, QR codes for sign
And the QR
language
codes, yes.
on devices.
Excellent.
And also, I think, now this SOP has two parts. The first part talks about physical design solutions, like what should be say by accessibility we mean ramp, but that's not that. I mean, a ramp, the design of the ramp, what should be the ideal slope of the ramp? Because say at a ramp, amra kora dilam 1:, very steep, 1:10 or 1:8. That doesn't really solve the purpose. So we have to really give them some technical guidelines also, which we have tried through this SOP. Again, it's just not ramps. So say elderly people, they're visiting the pandals. They might be getting sometimes overwhelmed by the excessive light, the sound. So they might require a calm zone where they can rest for a while.
Was it done anywhere this year, having a calm zone?
There are some medical facility. They have this first aid rooms and all those things. So what we have said that these also can double up as these calm zones. So where they can rest for a while.
What was the most surprising example of success, let's put it, whatever you call it as success from building out this SOP? What has been your biggest success example or most heartwarming example that you've seen from the activity that you take? And I would like to hear that from both of you.
You mean for the implementation part?
The implementation, yes.
Yes, I think Tala Prothoy, which Shombi we have visited, I think they have done a lot of work. They already have got a ramp so that the entire entire pandal is accessible to the ramp. And also in the particular pandal where we had launched this, that is the Rajdanga. So there also there is a ramp which takes you through. So I think that seamless accessibility, that step-free accessibility, that has been achieved in many pandals. And you were also talking about the lift, which I haven't seen, but I think I should go and see that.
Baliganj Cultural
Yes,
has the
Baliganj
lift.
Cultural.
Yes.
So I think so these two I would definitely say.
Absolutely. What about you, Shombi? What has been your biggest success that you feel has come out of this entire endeavor?
Well, I think that, and first of all, also we had a launch in Delhi.
All right,
the
I just
Durga
heard about
Puja
that. Yes.
Pandal in Delhi also. but again, I think this just, this is the 80th anniversary year of the United Nations. So to be able to be involved in such a powerful, practical demonstration of the principles of leaving no one behind is something really, it's emotional, and it really fits in with a lot of opportunities, experiences I've had here in India. I think, just the issue of the rights of persons with disabilities. First of all, we have the Global Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. India has a very progressive act, Rights of Persons with Disabilities. But it's about, turning that language into reality and for people's lives. That's really the key. And the stakes are enormous, are massive. I mean, it's about human rights first and foremost, absolutely. It's about each person being able to be fully take part in life that they can. But it's also about smart economics. We estimate that if as India becomes inclusive, it can gain about 3 to 7% of GDP, which is really, really huge. And India, right now, the stakes are unbelievable. I think, Professor, you would correct me if I'm not wrong. India is adding something like a new Chicago every year in terms of built environment for years to come, right? Something like 2/3 of India's cities have not yet been built.
Yeah, but we're going through a massive hypergrowth, right?
Yeah,
it's going to be India's decade of hypergrowth.
Yeah, so if India gets it right, if India can turn this growth towards sustainability, towards inclusion, then this is something that will actually really move the needle at the global scale. And we look at the Sustainable Development Goals here in India, of course, also looking at 2047 Viksit Bharat. So that really, the time is now, and the place is here, and that's why this is so exciting, I think, as well. It's really something. It's a global experiment, basically.
Right.
I think SDG 11 that talks about this inclusive cities.
Sure.
So and this is part of that. So we are definitely aligning it to the SDGs.
So we've heard about the academic idea behind this entire movement, let's call it, towards making the Durga Puja festival and Calcutta along with it more accessible. We've heard about it from the implementation point of view from you. I'm going to turn to my left to hear more about the grassroots level reality of this. So we have with us Priyanka. Priyanka Ghosh is a sign language educator and a disability rights activist and a disability rights advocate. And she works closely with Sanchar, which is an NGO which helps people get trained in the sign language. And we thought it would be a good idea to have somebody for whom this is a day-to-day reality, right? I'm going to come to Priyanka. Priyanka, we are also joined by Shonali, who is Priyanka's interpreter. Although Priyanka has promised that she will somehow manage this conversation with me if I speak slowly. So I'm going to switch to Bangla from this point on, at least for a little bit, and speak to Priyanka. Priyanka, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
কেমন আছো?
শুভ দুর্গা পূজা।
শুভ দুর্গা পূজা।
এখানে আমাদের এখানে প্রতিটি দুর্গা পূজা কিছু কিছু ভালো লেগেছে, কিন্তু আমি ঠাকুর দেখতে ভালোবাসি, অল্প ঠাকুর দেখে, কিন্তু আমি যেতে চাই না, খুব কম, কারণ এত ভিড় সব আছে। কিন্তু আমার বাড়িতে বসে থাকতে ভালো লাগে, বন্ধুদের সাথে গল্প করতে ভালো লাগে, এসব কিছু কিছু ঠাকুর দেখে। আমি সঞ্চয় 14 বছর ধরে কাজ করেছি। সঞ্চয় মানে প্রথম শুরু হয়ে গেছে কদমটা ওখানে মানে 1988 সালে মানে 1988 সালে সঞ্চয় শুরু হয়েছে।
কে শুরু করে?
তখন আমি প্রথমে কলকাতা আমার স্পেশাল স্কুলে পড়াশোনা করেছি, টেপ স্কুল। ওখানে আমাদের অনেক অসুবিধা ছিল না। তার আগে আমি ছোটবেলায় তখন আমার হেয়ারিং ছিল, তখন আমার পড়ে গেছে, তখন আমার টেপ হয়ে গেছে। আমার একটা সাধারণ স্কুলে পড়াশোনা করছে অনেক পাতা ছিল তারপর
কলকাতাতে
কলকাতা
আচ্ছা।
কলকাতা তখন আমি স্পেশাল স্কুলে ভর্তি করেছে বয়স 8 বছর ভর্তি করছে আমি অনেক স্পিচ শিখেছে তখন আমার সাইন ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ ছিল না অনেক শিখতে মাধ্যমিক পাস করেছে উচ্চ মাধ্যমিক পাস করার পর আমার সাইন ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ জয়েন করেছে কারণ আমার বন্ধুদের সাথে সব দেশ কিন্তু কমিউনিকেশন আমার অসুবিধা হয় সেই জন্য তার আগে সাইন ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ শিখে তখন আমার বন্ধুদের সাথে যোগাযোগ করতে সুবিধা হয় তারপর আমি সঞ্চয় আমার অফিসে সঞ্চয় জয়েন করেছে
কবে?
জয়েন করার
14
পর
বছর আগে
আমি গ্রামে 2012 সালে সঞ্চয় জয়েন করেছে
টিচার হিসেবে
কলকাতা একটু আলাদা হ্যাঁ আমি সঞ্চয় গিয়ে সব গ্রামে দেখেছিলাম কি কি কাজ হয় সব দেখেছিলাম থেকে আমি অনেক কিছু শিখেছি কারণ আমাদের হচ্ছে একটা স্পেশাল স্কুলে সব পড়াশোনা হয় ওখানে গ্রামে সব বাচ্চাতে ওখানে স্পেশাল স্কুলে নেই সব টিনারের স্কুলে পড়াশোনা করছে ওখানে কারণ ওখানে যাতায়াত অসুবিধা হয় পারবে না সেই জন্য সাধারণ স্কুলে পড়াশোনা করছে ওখানে টিচার আর বন্ধুদের সাথে যোগাযোগ করতে পারছে না সবাই চুপ করে আছে আমরা গিয়ে কথা বলি তারপর বাচ্চাদের মা বাবার সাথে প্রতিবেশীর সাথে সবাই একসঙ্গে সাইন ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ শেখায় তারপর ওখানে টিচার তো জানি না আমি সাইন ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ জানি না তাহলে আমরা কি শেখানো হয়
টিচারদের শেখাও
হ্যাঁ সাইন ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ স্কুল কলেজ তারপর বিভিন্ন জায়গায় সব সাইন ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ শিখেছে তারপরে বাচ্চাদের যোগাযোগ করতে পেরেছে আমাদের মানে অনেকে বাচ্চারা মাধ্যমিক উচ্চ মাধ্যমিক পাস করেছে তাহলে অনেক সুবিধা হয়েছে অনেক অ্যাক্সেসিবিলিটি অনেক পেয়েছে কিন্তু কিছু স্কুলে সবাই সাইন ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ হয় না কিন্তু ওখানে স্কুলে একটু দায়িত্ব দিতে হবে কিন্তু আমরা গিয়েছিলাম ওরা স্কুলের টিচার শিখেছে ওরা দায়িত্ব দিতে হবে যে হ্যাঁ ওরা বাচ্চাদের অনেক অসুবিধা আছে কিন্তু সাইন ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ দরকার কিন্তু এখন কিছু বলছে না কিন্তু থাকতে হবে আমরা গিয়ে সাইন ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ শেখাতে হবে মানে আর একটা মানে এক্সাম্পল প্রত্যেক স্কুলে সবাই আঁকা ক্লাস হয় সেলাই ক্লাস হয় তারপরে নাচ ক্লাস হয় কিন্তু একটা সাইন ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ ক্লাস দরকার কারণ এটা সহজ হবে কেন মানে ওখানে ক্লাস হচ্ছে মানে ABC সব শিখতে বাচ্চাদের সাথে টিচারদের সাথে শিখলে তখন অথান করে একজন বাচ্চাদের সাধারণ স্কুলে জয়েন করেছে হ্যাঁ আমি জানি সাইন ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ ওকে শেখাতে পারবে তাহলে সুবিধা হবে
আমাকে বলো কত সময় লাগে একটা আমি যদি ধরো আজকে শিখতে চাই কত সময় লাগে সাইন ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ শিখতে
মানে যেমন
মানে বেসিক কথা বলতে মানে একটা তোমাকে বুঝতে কত
8 ঘন্টা 1 ঘন্টার মধ্যে
না কত দিন লাগবে যদি আমি আজকের থেকে
মানে যদি স্কুলে হয় সপ্তাহে
দুদিন করে কতদিন ধরে শিখতে হবে
মানে 6 বছর করতে হবে
মানে
ক্লাস আমি একটা এক্সাম্পল দিচ্ছি ক্লাস 1 2 3 4 5 মানে চ্যাপ্টার ছোট করে সাইন ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ শিখে তাহলে সুবিধা হবে একটু যেমন একটা এক্সাম্পল একটা সেলাই করে প্রতিদিন ক্লাস মানে সপ্তাহে একদিন সেলাই হয় আবার কখনো সপ্তাহে একদিন পিটি ব্যায়াম হয় যোগা হয় সপ্তাহে একদিন সেম সাইন ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ একদিন হলে সপ্তাহে একদিন হলে ভালো হয়
বুঝতে পেরেছি আমাকে একটা কথা বলো দুর্গা পুজো এই যে এটা তো আমাদের প্রিয় একটা ফেস্টিভ্যাল সবাই আমরা খুব আনন্দ করি তো আগে যখন ধরো ওনারা যে কাজটা করছেন যে সেখানে একটা র্যাম্প তৈরি করা যারা হাঁটতে পারে না তাদের জন্য বা হুইল চেয়ার অ্যাক্সেস তৈরি করা সেরকম শুনলাম যে কিউআর কোড তৈরি করা হয়েছে যারা সাইন ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ জন্য সেটা তুমি কি ব্যবহার করেছো
ব্যবহার করেছি তারা প্রত্যয় একটা হচ্ছে আমাকে ডাকছিল একদিন আগে।
আচ্ছা।
হ্যাঁ, কিন্তু ওখানে তারা প্রথম একটা বিষয় দিয়েছে অনেক বড়।
অনেক বড়।
কিন্তু আমার টাইম লাগবে, কিন্তু আমার একটা প্র্যাকটিস করতে হবে, প্র্যাকটিস করে করে কীভাবে সাইন ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ করে তখন মানে 1 মাস আগে করলে ভালো হয়। আমি শিখি, তবে আমাকে আস্তে 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 দেখাবো, তাহলে সবাই বুঝতে পারবে। কিন্তু তারা একদিন আগে আমার একটু তাড়াতাড়ি হচ্ছে তাড়াতাড়ি বলেছি, আমি বলেছি একটু সময় লাগবে বলে না তাড়াতাড়ি আমার মানে সাইন ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ বুঝতে পারে, কিন্তু সবাই কেউ বুঝতে পারছে, আবার কেউ বুঝতে পারছে না। আমার বন্ধুকে মেসেজ করেছে, বলে তোমাকে দেখলাম বুঝতে পারছো? হ্যাঁ বুঝতে পারছি, আরেকটু বুঝছি, আমার অসুবিধা হচ্ছে।
আচ্ছা,
এখানে
তো পরের বছর ওটা একটু সময় নিয়ে করতে হবে ওটা।
সময় লাগবে।
হ্যাঁ, আর ধরো এই বছর যেই জিনিসটা হয়েছে যে 24টা পুজো প্যান্ডেলে র্যাম্প তৈরি হয়েছে, ব্রেল, সাইন ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজের জন্য কিউআর কোড বা এই হুইল চেয়ার অ্যাক্সেস, এইগুলো যে তৈরি হয়েছে, এইটার কথা যে তুমি তো ডিসেবিলিটি নিয়ে যারা আছে তাদের সাথে কাজ করো, খুব ওতপ্রোতভাবে কাজ করো, তো এই পুরো কমিউনিটিটা জানে তার এই যে ব্যাপারটা যে এইটা করা হচ্ছে, তার কত শতাংশ লোকে অ্যাকচুয়ালি জানে যে এই 24টা পুজো প্যান্ডেল আছে, এখানে গেলে এই ফ্যাসিলিটিগুলো অ্যাভেলেবল আছে?
মানে হ্যাঁ, মানে আমাদের মানে কিছু কারণ ওটা হচ্ছে একটা মানে সব অ্যাক্সেসিবিলিটি সব ঠিক আছে, কিন্তু সবার কোনো অসুবিধা নেই, প্রিল অসুবিধা নেই, কিন্তু ভিডিওটা যারা মোবাইল আছে, মোবাইল থেকে বুঝতে পারছে, যারা কি মোবাইল নেই তাহলে কি করে
যারা মোবাইল নেই তারা
হচ্ছে এখানে ভিডিও দেখাবে, সবাই দেখতে পাবে, কিন্তু মোবাইল থেকে পার করলে একটা অসুবিধা হয়, ভিডিও দেখালে তারপরে সুবিধা হবে।
আচ্ছা, আর কি করতে পারো তুমি পরের বছরের জন্য যদি চিন্তা করো যে আরো ভালো করে আরো বেশি লোকের কাছে যদি পৌঁছাতে হয়, তাহলে তুমি কি করবে?
আমার ভবিষ্যতে আমি একটা ভাবছি, ভবিষ্যতে আমি শুধু কথা বলতে পারি, ঠিক আছে, বিভিন্ন জায়গায় যেমন ডাক্তার, হসপিটাল, ব্যাংক, আমি কথা বলতে পারি, আমি যোগাযোগ করতে পারি, আমার সুবিধা হয়। যারা কানে শোনা কথা বলা অসুবিধা, যারা কথা বলতে পারছে না, কিন্তু এখানে কি অনেক বাধা পড়েছে, কারণ যে কোনো একটা ইন্টারপ্রিটার থাকা দরকার, বিভিন্ন জায়গায় ইন্টারপ্রিটার থাকলে তাহলে সাহায্য করতে পারবে। শুধু আমি একা, বাকিগুলো আমি একা কথা ভাবে, অনেকের কথা ভাবতে হবে, তাহলে সব জায়গায় ইন্টারপ্রিটার থাকলে ভালো হবে। যেমন শুধু ডেফ নয়, বিভিন্ন প্রতিবন্ধকতা, যেমন অটিজম, আর আইটি বাচ্চা, আরেকটা হচ্ছে সিপি বাচ্চা, অনেকে বাচ্চা। যখন আমি একটা হচ্ছে শুধু একটা হচ্ছে একটা টিচার, মানে বিভিন্ন জায়গায় একটা করে টিচার থাকতে হবে, তাহলে বুঝতে পারবে, কারণ যারা চোখে দেখা অসুবিধা, মানে হুইল চেয়ার অসুবিধা সবাই বুঝতে পারে, কিন্তু কানে শোনার কথা বলার অসুবিধা, অটিজম অসুবিধা কেউ বুঝতে পারবে না, সাধারণ মানুষ, কিন্তু দেখে আমি বুঝি ও হ্যাঁ, তাহলে একটু সাহায্য করতে হবে, তাহলে সহজ হবে।
আমাদের অনেক কিছু বুঝতে হবে, ওর কথাটা শুনে যেটা আমরা বুঝলাম এখন, I'm going to switch to English again, Shombi. My point of this exercise with Priyanka was to figure out that, hey, you have taken the right steps in creating the infrastructure with a good intent, tied up, made these SOPs, but what percentage of the people that are actually the target audience for people with disabilities, how much of them are actually reached through this process? And she brought out a very interesting point in that, that it's not just people with physical disabilities, people who have autism, people who have cerebral palsy, they are probably not yet ready enough to take this on because it still does not have the right kind of infrastructure for that. She also suggested that more and more interpreters need to be available also for people who have listening and speaking disabilities. So these are a few points. I just want to hear it from the horse's mouth on this, but I would love to hear from Dr.
I think we have already
Hoymanti.
mentioned that. ও যেটা বললো যে about interpreters. So এখানে আমি বলছিলাম যে we have two parts of this SOP. First part is the physical design, next part is the volunteer training and all. So in the volunteer training, we have suggested that the big puja pandals, like where there is significant footfall, it is preferred that there should be one sign language interpreter in the help booth. So we have suggested that. And not only that, say for key rituals like Ashtomi Anjali or Shondi Pujo, if possible, we can have a sign language ISL interpreter. So that's also we have suggested in this SOP. But in SOP, how we have done it, we have suggested certain things which are absolutely non-negotiable, and certain recommendations which are
suggested,
aspirational,
like which are good to have.
Which are good to have, absolutely. So which will definitely make your experience better. So now having this ISL or Indian Sign Language interpreter, so that is a suggested or aspirational recommendation that we have given.
Got it.
And but say a ramp or a step-free access or a separate pathway or a dedicated platform for people with disability or elderly to stand there and offer Pushpanjali. So these are some non-negotiable that we have suggested.
I have a counter question on that
Sure.
for you. When you are talking about certain things being non-negotiable versus certain things being suggested, how do you decide that
Yes.
from an academic standpoint?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
You are targeting different groups of individuals, right? Not all of them have the same disabilities either. So if the ISL becomes a suggested good to have, but for somebody with a physical disability, that's a non-negotiable. As a common person, I would like to understand better why was the decision taken.
I think that's a very good question. Now, first of all, we have to understand that how many people there are 21 categories of disability as per the RPWD 2016 Act.
For our audience, could you help them understand what are some of the broad categories in which you can break down the disabilities?
Yeah, sure. Now, generally what we see that, as she was very, very nicely elaborated, that certain disabilities you can see and certain disabilities we cannot see.
Right.
Say a person with locomotor disability. You definitely can see, say someone which is an amputee or someone who is sitting on a wheelchair or someone is walking with crutches, that you can definitely see. Someone with vision impairment. I mean, vision impairment need not be just totally blind. It can be people with low vision, with advanced cataract and all those things. So that's also a type of disability. So that also you can see. But say someone who is of hearing impairment, you cannot see that. But that definitely disability is there. But this mental illness or mental retardation or this autism and other things which you cannot see, or maybe even dwarfism, that's also included in this 21 category of disability, because that requires different anthropometry.
So what about things like dysgraphia or dyslexia? Are those also considered? Sorry for my ignorance.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Would they be considered?
They are, but not the slow learning and those
So
things.
learning disabilities are not considered?
Disability, slow learning is not considered.
Okay.
But we have this intellectual disability, definitely we have that. But also there are things like thalassemia. Thalassemia is also included.
Okay.
Because now how we are now viewing a disability is that anything which probably hinders fullest participation of someone in the society, which probably stops you from performing your so-called normal activities. So that's how disability is being redefined, because it's an interaction. I mean, the way probably if we just see the history of disability, we are moving from a charity-based model to a right-based approach. Like the medical model
Very
of disability থেকে আমরা এখন চলে যাচ্ছি to the social model of disability.
Right.
Now, the medical model of disability used to treat a person with disability as a patient who requires maybe specialized treatment, or who requires advanced aids and appliances, so that he or she is getting normalized. Probably that is now we have now moved away from, and what we are saying, I think Shombi used this term, that empowerment. Like when a family is taking the child to there's a lot of empowerment, whereby the environment is supposed to be barrier free. environment
It's more
is
conducive
supposed
to
be-
having a good
yes,
time. I think
Yes,
that's-
yes.
yeah.
It's not the medical model kind of targeted the person as if it's the fault of the person, but the
Right.
social model says that it's the fault of the environment. Say, if I am not able to access a facility which is on the first floor because I am amputee, so it's not my fault.
Exactly.
It's the fault of the building because the architect has not provided a lift.
Right.
So that's the shift in approach has been.
It's the same way that, for example, for the reason why I say reservation exists is because you are trying to go back in time and fix certain things at the very grassroots level
Yes,
so that
yes,
the
yes.
next generations do not have to start from negative. They can start from a level playing field. At the end of the day, that's what I'm guessing a lot of the work that you
Right,
do
right,
is
right,
on.
right.
And how do you create a level playing field for all so
Now,
that nobody's left behind?
If I try to answer your question, which you had said, that why were certain things, certain recommendations thought to be non-negotiable, why some are, aspirational. So one of the major consideration was the practicality. Because all these 24 these pujas, they have got their very specific site context. Say TGSI, what we have, this tactile ground surface indicator.
Sorry, what is that?
I'll just elaborate. Tactile ground surface indicators. So that's a technical term. আমি আমাকে বলেছিল technical বেশি use না করতে।
না, use করতে পারো, just explain করতে হবে।
Yeah, sure. So these are those tiles যেটাকে ওই touch করে you can feel that there are two types of tiles by
Like at the
which the
airport.
blind at the airport you must have seen those yellow tiles.
Oh, yes. Wait, that's what I had no idea that's what
Yes.
they do.
Yeah,
Okay, can you
that's
please
a-
explain
yes,
this
there are-
from the beginning
Okay.
on what I have been going to, I travel like 20 days a month. I had no idea that's what these were for.
Have you seen there are two types of tiles?
Of
One
course.
type of tile is as dotted.
Yes, the dotted, the yellow tiles you're talking about.
Yeah, yellow
Yes,
tiles. One
yes.
is dotted. Another one is you have this kind of strips.
Yes.
So the strips one is called the directional tiles. So that means if the strips are in this side, that means you have to move on this side.
Oh.
And whenever there are the dotted tiles, that means it shows either you have to change your direction or there's some hazard in front of you. Say by the edge of the metro railway, you would find the dotted tiles.
Right.
Because stop there.
I had zero idea that this is what it was for. What are other, no, I have another, follow-up question. Now my brain is going all over the place. What are other things
Yes.
that a normal person without disability, let's not call it normal, let's say somebody without
Please
disability.
don't call that normal.
Yes, sorry, I apologize. I take that back immediately.
I will tell you the other technical term for that. That is TAB, temporary able-bodied.
Temporarily able-bodied
Yes.
until something goes, anything could go wrong,
Anything
right?
could
So
go
I
wrong.
did realize it was a mistake and I tried to correct. But I hope I will not get cancelled for this. I'm also learning. I'm trying to.
I'm not that strict a teacher.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it very much. I had said at the beginning of the podcast that normally podcasts and wherever I'm on stage is something that makes me very happy. I was also happy with this, but I was a little bit more stressed than usual because we are dealing with a lot of things which is not common parlance, which is not an everyday affair. So this was also a bit of a leap of faith for us. Like, let's try it out. We'll see how it
Yes,
goes.
but we are all very excited about it.
No, I'm also. So I have a follow-up question to
Yes,
that.
sure.
Just the way that you talked about these tiles, which are seemingly for a temporarily able-bodied person like myself, I've never realized that.
No, that's for people with vision impairment, to guide them.
Right.
Yes.
What are other things that are available in our surroundings normally that are for disabled people, but we don't know about it?
Okay, grab bars in the toilet, so that's for elderly.
Like in the
Grab
handicap
bars,
toilets that you have on the sides that you have.
Yes, not only, there are two types of grab bars. One that will see that can be lifted up and down. Another one, you can just simply have just say by the side of the water closet where someone is sitting, you can just have a handrail to just support yourself
To
up and
support
down.
getting up, right? Yes.
So, certain things which probably do not even notice unless and until you need them. So definitely the grab bars in the toilet are one. And another example, maybe say the door. The door of the toilet,
Yeah.
does it open in or out?
Out? In? I have never thought about this in my life. That
Probably depends.
I would say. You mean like swivel doors?
No. The door will either open out or it will open inside.
Yeah.
So
Which way? Like if you're going into the toilet or
see,
if you're coming
inside
out?
you're inside the
when
toilet.
you're inside the toilet?
The door should open inside or it should go outside?
I think it should go out.
Yeah.
For a barrier-free toilet, it should always open outside. That also happens in hospitals. So that if there's something, some accident inside, you can just open the door out and just help out the person.
Right.
So these are certain simple things probably which are slightly different.
Okay.
Or I'll just give another example since we're talking about inclusion. Inclusion is just not disability, just not elderly, but it's for all. I don't know whether you had, like we had in IIT when we were students in IIT, we used to have a particular type of chair, so which used to have a writing piece towards your right side. Have you seen that?
Yes.
Where used to have
So it's like a desk chair, like
yeah,
you have
some kind of a desk
where you can,
chair.
yeah, of course.
Yeah, just like this, and
For
you just
right-handed
put your
people.
hand.
For right-handed people, yeah.
For right-handed people.
Right, yes. It was never for people
Yes.
left-handed.
And I have seen that while giving invigilation, and I have seen that people who are left-handed, they are just, adopting a very odd position and, writing like this.
that. Yeah, that's crazy actually.
But I mean, they are not disabled definitely. A left-handed person you called, they are not person with disability, but they need that. So that's not universal design. That's not inclusive design. So I mean, a simple solution can be just when you have a continuous just flip-flop type of a desk where anybody can write in with any hand.
Yeah, or it comes in front.
It
If
comes in front. That's what I'm
then-
saying. It comes in front.
Yeah, I think the first time as a child, I discovered that people can be left-handed also I think I was in class 7th or 8th, and I had a guitar teacher who was left-handed. And I have only always I play guitar a little bit, and I was trying to play his guitar, and I was like, this is very weird. Why is this guitar upside down? And I asked him, and he said, yeah, because I'm left-handed, obviously I play this side. I was like, you have different guitars for that? It was completely like mind-blowing for me.
Yes,
I think a very similar incident happened right now when you told me about the tiles, with the yellow tiles, because it never struck to me that this is what it was.
Why are they?
Yeah. So, okay, I'm going to come back to you.
Sure,
Quite a
sure,
few
sure.
more questions,
Yeah,
but
please.
off to Shombi again. We had an event right here where we are quite a few years ago. There was a lady on a wheelchair who designs clothes for disabled people, right? And I thought it was a fantastic idea because they have, if people with deformities, for example, or amputees, they also want to be fashionable. They want to have, a way to showcase their inner style and flair, but in a way which does not conform to like regular clothing. And I loved the work that she does. But that's not the interesting part of the story. We had asked her what empathy meant to her. There was a question that was part of I think it was in a panel or something. And she had said that empathy is probably understanding that you would not be able to understand another person 100%. It's the attempt thereby to keep trying to understand another person, because you would probably not get to 100% of it, but it's worth trying. Otherwise, how do you even build relatability with that person? The reason why I talked about this is now you as a foreigner in India who's been working for 4 years, this is not your country as such. But we are decent hosts. I hope you've had a good time in Delhi in these last 4 years that you've been. And
I like to say Medili wala ho.
Medili wala. And if you keep saying these things, of course
Now
you
Kolkata.
Yeah, now Kolkata wala as well. No, so my point is, how have you built empathy for our country through your work? And when you wake up in the morning, what is it that drives you to continue doing the work that you do?
Well, there's a lot in that question, and it's been 4 amazing years, and I would say that India's been very good to me in terms of just incredible life experiences. The best part of my job is that I get to travel. The UN country team in India, we have 22 agencies, funds, and programs, and we're partnering in every state and union territory in some way or another.
So what are some of these programs, sorry, just for the audience to get educated?
Sure, absolutely. So, we're doing a lot of work in disaster risk reduction, for example, whether it's working in Gujarat and Bhuj or the Rann of Kutch, working with fisher communities there, and early warning systems, or working in Orissa and communities, coastal communities there. That's a big part, whether it's food security, whether it's helping to enhance the productivity of the public distribution systems as well. I mean, education and healthcare and pandemic preparedness, and really it's across the board. So the best part of my job is I get to travel a lot. I've been to 22 states at this point in time.
It's probably a bit more than I have been to, so well done, Shombi.
Thank you. I mean, that's typically how it is, right? In your own country, you don't tend not to travel as much. But I get to, to really engage with communities. That's the exciting thing about India. Actually, India provides every possible experience. So, from doing homestays in villages and where it's too hot to stay inside and sleeping outside under the stars, to speaking at IFA with Bollywood stars in the front rows. It's really every experience. But I think in terms of the empathy, I mean, I think Professor Banerjee was really this powerful point about it's moving away from a charity model, right, to a rights-based model. So the medical model is important. It's somewhere halfway in between, right? So it's not getting rid of of course, we need assistive technologies, absolutely. But it's understanding the ultimate goal is the holistic person, this rights-based approach. And there, then you begin to understand, and I think Priyanka will probably, hopefully agree, that speaking to persons with disabilities, they don't want charity. They want the empowerment in the sense of being able just to be independent. It's independent living. And I've had such amazing experiences engaging with, for example, a woman with Down syndrome, Devanshi, who's, because her employer, she works at a retail shop at a big mall in Delhi. And because the employer has a proactive hiring policy and reached out, they were able to access an incredible talent in Devanshi. She's everybody's favorite, the customer's favorite, the colleague's favorite. She, hates to ever miss a day of work. But until you kind of see that in action, then it's hard for, you were talking about this, it's hard for people to have the imagination. And then the minute that you see a woman with Down syndrome, absolutely independent, leading her life, having a job, all of these things, it's like, wow, this is in a way so simple. We just need to take steps as society. Another young woman artist with Down syndrome, Aishwarya Rat, who was came to my office once, offered to bring a painting, and I just thought, okay, why not? Sounds nice. And the painting she brought was absolutely incredible. And I thought, wow, what talent. And then I came to find out that she's kind of a well-known artist. She's actually now an actor. I think she was in Maktub, the film, just this past year as well. And so it's about, the problem is that disability inclusion, so far it's largely invisible in many parts, right? So people are not able to partake because of the built environment is not inclusive, because of, there's not awareness, this sort of a thing. So these experiences are so powerful. I had the opportunity to go meet with the Indian national women's wheelchair basketball team as they were preparing for the Olympics. The Paralympics trials. And I play basketball, so I was taking some shots with the ball, and they said, oh, you play? And I said, yes, I do. They said, grab a chair. Here's a sports wheelchair. Have a seat. Join us. And so I did. And it was the most fun thing I think I've ever done in my life. And we had such a great time. And it's that community, right, around common interests, shared interests that you find. So we just need to bring down these barriers to that so that everybody can celebrate everything together. And, just on that note, as a result, we were celebrating the 80th anniversary of the UN this year. I organized a tennis tournament, actually. It was sort of a diplomatic thing, but then we said, let's make it inclusive as well, with the Delhi Lawn Tennis Association in Delhi. And so we had wheelchair tennis. They also have, a group of players.
But for temporarily able-bodied people?
For both.
For both,
it was a mix. We had mixed doubles, you could call it, right? The wheelchair players and tabs, you know,
Tabs,
also
yeah.
sitting in the chairs together, ambassadors, you know, together. And we were raising some funding for kindergartens that the UN Women's Association in Delhi supports for underprivileged children. But last point I wanted to make on that tab, that temporary, right? Disability is, it's not a static thing.
Yes.
It's dynamic. And some people are born with disabilities. Some people acquire disabilities at some point in their life. And actually, probably all of us at some point will have a disability or another, right? So it's a whole spectrum like that. And that's where this universal design, you know, it's really, it's about everybody.
Correct.
Right? It's really about all of us. And, you know, India, according to the official statistics, has about sort of 2.2%, I think, of the population, persons with
crazy.
disabilities.
2.2%.
But that's not, but we know the reality,
2011 census.
we know the reality according to, that's according to the last census, because it's not a very sophisticated instrument in terms of disability inclusion. Globally, we know the average is about like 15%. And so there's no reason to expect it would be any different here in India.
Exactly.
So that's, you're talking like over 200 million,
200 million people.
Right. And so that requires really a paradigm shift for the betterment of all of us.
I like this idea of, you know, the story that you said about basketball and about how they got you into a wheelchair to play. Again, that was level the playing field happening in real time, except you got a better understanding of who these, of how, you know, the issues that they have probably. I don't know if you were any good at it, even though you were, were you good?
Well, I like to say I'm a decent basketball player. I've been playing my whole life. But no, I have to say I had such respect, gained instant respect for the skills of the women on the team. And really, that's something that, you know, a special experience. But it really should be normal. It should be average. You were talking about, you know, being not a very common topic or something. That's the whole point, that there should be absolutely nothing unusual or uncommon about the topic. It should just be an afterthought.
Yeah. Is there something called a World Disability Day or something? Is there a day? I'm just trying to think on a citywide level, if we had to create more awareness for people to respect and to understand better their, you know, fellow citizens in Calcutta, what could we do? Could we create a movement where, you know, one day a year we actually create circumstances where, you know, people can play basketball, but while sitting down in a chair, or this tennis, you know. So I would be very interested to know
if I could just simply mention it. Actually, I think I was going to say Priyanka can probably answer best, but let me just say that we are actually joining partners. We are in a partnership with Goa, the government of Goa. Goa is hosting what's called the International Purple Festival.
What? The Purple
International
Festival?
Purple Festival.
Okay.
Right. Happening in 2 weeks' time. And this is something really tremendous. What started as a state-level festival about disability inclusion, about looking at policies and programs, inclusive, you know, built environment, but also looking at arts and culture and sports and fun, has been so successful. Now, all of the states of India participate in this Goa festival. All of the commissioners, disability commissioners, and policymakers are there. And it's also become an international festival. So I think they have, I could be wrong, but something like 30 countries participating there as well. So my office, the UN team here in India and Resident Coordinator Office, we're partnering for the first time this year with Goa on that. And we're also partnering with NDMA on disaster response with Goa. So a big part of that is going to be how to make disaster preparedness and responses inclusive, disability inclusive across the country.
Oof.
I think that's 12th to 14th of October, I guess. I think that's the time, right?
In the next couple of
Actually,
months.
9th through 12th.
9th to 12th, maybe.
9th through 12th. Yeah, exactly.
So
I'm wearing purple, actually. See, purple festival.
Are we participating from West Bengal as part of the festival?
No.
We're not?
No? Well, probably the commissioner.
I'm not aware of them.
We should probably find out.
Yeah, maybe.
if this is something that's happening, because
I
I
think
for
so,
the
but
first time I
we'll-
heard about it.
If not, definitely we'll make it happen.
Yeah,
But
we can
yeah,
just make it
right.
happen.
I know the Paralympics, the person who's responsible for the Paralympics Association, the president,
Oh,
he's
okay.
close to me.
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
if this is, I mean, it's more from a sporting
Yeah.
perspective, but I'm
Sure.
sure
Yeah, sure.
there could be something that's...
Everything is there. Again, sports, arts, culture, policy program, financing, everything. It's really,
Super.
really amazing.
Let me
Yeah,
set
yeah.
that up right after
Yeah.
we finish the podcast.
Yes, maybe
but
we can do that. Is
Yeah.
that Asia Pacific Network of Accessibility? I think they were also involved in this Purple Festival.
Yes, also. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so
No, it's
yes,
really
yeah.
it's really a big thing. Of course, I mean the Ministry of Social Justice. I mean the Union Ministry
Correct.
also is very much engaged there. I know certainly Secretary Agrawal is going to be there. So really, it's become such a big thing. And of course, nobody minds going to Goa also.
exactly.
Just like Calcutta.
Yeah,
you know,
we also like going to Goa very much.
But I think Priyanka probably has some good ideas about how to,
Yes.
exactly what you were asking about, how to celebrate inclusion.
প্রিয়াঙ্কা কি করে ওনার প্রশ্ন তুমি শুনলে বলেছে হ্যাঁ তুমি আমরা এক্ষুনি কথা বলছিলাম যে আমরা যারা আছি যাদের হয়তো আপাতত কোনো ডিসেবিলিটি নেই তাদের যদি আরো ভালো করে তোমার মতো লোকদেরকে আরো ভালো করে বুঝতে হয় তাহলে তোমার কি আইডিয়া আছে যে কি করা যেতে পারে মানে চোখে আঙুল দিয়ে যদি বোঝাতে হয় ওদেরকে
আমি বলতে হ্যাঁ আমি বলতে পারছি আমার একটা স্বপ্ন দেখতে কি আমি চাকরি করে আমি জব করে অনেকে পাচ্ছেতে সব ডিসিপ্লিন পাচ্ছেতে সেটা জব করবে যেমন ওরা বলতে টাউন সাইডেও জব করছে সব ভালো করতে পারছে সেটা ভালো আরেকটা হচ্ছে অনেকে প্রতিনিয়ত পাচ্ছেতে জব করেছে বিভিন্ন জব করছে যেমন কেএফসি তারপরে শপিং মল তারপরে বিভিন্ন জব করেছে তখন জয়েন করা জব করতে কিছু আলাদা জব করে কত 1 বছর 2 বছর তারপর তাড়িয়ে দিতেছে কিন্তু তাড়িয়ে দিতেছে কেন ওরা ম্যানেজার সব কথাবার্তা ভালো নয় কিন্তু কথাবার্তা ব্যবহার ভালো করতে হবে ওকে বোঝাতে হবে আর একজন হচ্ছে একটা ছেলে হচ্ছে ওর কাছে জব করেছে ও জব করতে একটু বিশ্রাম নিচ্ছে কিন্তু ভাইকে আরেকজন কথা বলেছে ও টিপতে শুধু অনেকে সব সেম জব করেছে আর একজন টিপতে জব করেছে ওরা কথা বলছে এই কথা বলছে কেন ওখানে চলে আসছো চাও কাজ করো পা ও খারাপ লেগে গেছে টিপতে খারাপ লেগেছে ও বলছে কেন ঠিক আছে কিছু বলছে না তারপর চলে গেছে আবার সেম কথা করো আরেকটা হতে পারে একটা টিপ ছেলেতে ওখানে সব আলাদা টাইম সকালে দুপুরে রাতে সব ফাঁক টাইম দিতেছে টিপতে শুধু রাত্রিবেলা কাটতে হবে প্রতিদিন রাত্রিবেলা কাটতে হবে পাখিগুলো দিনবেলা কাটতে হবে পাখিগুলো দুপুরবেলা কাটতে হবে আবার রাত্রিবেলা কাটতে হবে কেন সব সমানভাবে কাটতে হবে হতে পারে আরেকটা হচ্ছে টিপতে সব ভারী চাকরি করেছে ওখানে নিয়ম হচ্ছে 8 ঘন্টা 9 ঘন্টা কাজ করতে হয় ওরা টিপতের জন্য 15 ঘন্টা কাজ দিয়েছে 15 ঘন্টা কাজ এত কষ্ট করছে কেন শুধু টিপতে অত্যাচার করবে কিন্তু ভালোভাবে ব্যবহার করা দরকার সবাই আমাকে বলছে তুই কেন এরকম করছিস আমি বলছি দেখছি কিন্তু সব টিপতের জন্য সবাই ভালোভাবে ব্যবহার করতে হবে কিন্তু সমাধান করলে ভালো হয়
Very earnest request, I think, that she has put out, that it's also dependent on us as tabs, and especially in positions of power. I think we lack a certain amount of depth, perhaps, and a certain amount of empathy for employees with disabilities, and they end up getting sidelined and getting ejected from jobs over time because of a lack of understanding from their managers and HRs. So that I think she put out a very strong message on that. I will come back to both of you once quickly. First to you, Shombi. I would like to know about if you had to compare this journey of making your city slash country more inclusive, accessible, and eventually sustainable. Where we are in India right now versus where the US is or was when you were growing up? Where do we stand if you had to compare, or other parts of the world which can be seen as benchmarks for inclusivity? And what are 3 tangible actionables that can be taken to get faster to that point?
Well, I think it's a pretty challenging comparison because first of all, India is still, is a lower middle income country, so developing at a very rapid pace. I mean, India has the fastest growth rate for a large economy, so there's a lot to be optimistic about there. Dynamic economy, certain sectors, things really are moving. There's still a lot of development left, no doubt about that. And also the world is changing. So, you've got technology today that we didn't have then. You've got AI, you've got, So I think what I see here in India is that, especially in the technology space, I mean, the government has done a fantastic job in creating this Indian model, Indian stack of digital public infrastructure. So really leapfrogging. I mean, actually going ahead of the US in many respects in terms of the digital space. So that leapfrogging, that ability to, if you do things right, actually you're not kind of, India has the advantage in technology and digital not to be held back by the legacy infrastructure, but actually to innovate and move forward. And what India has done is approached the public infrastructure, digital infrastructure as a public good. Laying the tracks that everybody should have a certain minimum access, the Jam Trinity, and this has led to incredible advances in digital inclusion and financial inclusion for women with disability, for everybody. So I think in some respects, India is actually in a better position. Now, in terms of the built environment, the urban infrastructure, I think that's the biggest challenge. And the urbanization, the rural to urban migration, this is not easy. It's a big challenge. So that's where I think the work of IIT and the NIUA and the ministry and all of this, and the cities and states, because obviously India is a very federalist, decentralized. A lot of this comes under the mandate of states and local bodies. That's going to be the challenge. And so that's why I think we have to put absolute priority on this universal design, inclusive and sustainable urbanization, right? Because if you're flooding, then it doesn't matter if you're inclusive or not. It doesn't matter, these sorts of things, right? So you have
everyone sees to be temporarily able-bodied.
Yes, absolutely.
But of course, some are more vulnerable. So that's, I think that's really that's the key right there. And again, if India can get this right, then the scale is enormous. Also, India has what I like to say is the greatest youth generation in history. More young minds to tap for solutions than any country has ever had before. And so that's where it's really critical that we are availing of this incredible human capital, the youth generation, and that also we're including, young people with disabilities within that. Obviously, not everybody is going to be a Stephen Hawking, right? But when the country is not tapping every single mind it has to come forward with solutions, including young people with disabilities, then it will not achieve, its full potential, its full capacity. So I think that's, really, we see a lot of reasons to be optimistic in India. And, I like to say, in Hindi, SDGs dunya mein mumkin hongi, kyunki India mein mumkin hongi. That really, truly, what's happening here gives us hope. It's that pace and that scale.
Taking a little bit from his, optimistic view on India, how can we hyper-localize some of these solutions to Calcutta, to West Bengal, to our state where we are working in right now, and your closing remarks?
Sure. I think the major challenge of the Indian cities is they are already very densely built.
Yeah.
So we have to select a solution which is very contextual. So if I just can, summarize this, so what probably we require to do is first step is the diagnosis. We need to understand the problem. We need to have a proper, strategic accessibility audit. So I think what Shombi...
Strategic accessibility audit. And
Like,
that would happen at a
where do we
citywide
stand?
scale, or that would happen at a...
I'll tell you. So we can have it at a different scale. What Shombi was referring to, that our work with NIUA, which did with Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. So we came up with some kind of a checklist at a city level, where all the sectors of urban life. Why do we come to the city? We come to the city for various opportunities, like housing. It may be physical and social infrastructure, is urban open spaces, transportation, employment. And
Perhaps
also,
one of the biggest drivers
yes,
for...
employment, and also say recreation, tourism, everything, and also the digital accessibility. So if we first need to understand probably that where our city stands against all these things. And so what we had developed measurable parameters, so that we can do some kind of a scoring, that in which sector maybe my city is lagging behind.
Right.
So that's what we did with NIUA, and also we have got this, we are calling this inclusive city framework, and we have also got that copyrighted. So, I mean, this is just one thing we had done. So now, once we are done with the audit, we know that which sector is to be prioritized, where we are lagging behind, which sector needs some kind of an improvement. So once the audit is done, then probably we need to think that how much we can do. There are various levels of accessibility. You need not to do the best always. It is not possible to do the best always. So, I mean, technically what we call, there are generally 4 stages. One is reasonable accommodation. So that means say you just have a stage like this. I put a wooden plank here so that someone coming on a wheelchair can go there. The reasonable accommodation. Or the next stage is when you make it visitable. So maybe just you have a permanent ramp, some kind of a here, but so that only from one place it can be accessible. You need not make it accessible from all sides, but just from one you make it accessible. That is a visitable. Then maybe you make it barrier free. That means you make maybe some say you have a building, some areas of the building or some spaces within the built environment, you make it accessible, where you think most number of people will come. And then the final stages, you want to make it universal, inclusive or universal design, where you take care of all kinds of disabilities, all kinds of vulnerabilities, physical, psychological, social, everything. So we have to really think that what stage we want to go, so that we come up with pragmatic solutions.
Is there a global benchmark in a citywide model or a country that you think is the most?
There is no global benchmark. It has to be absolutely contextual.
Okay.
I mean, you have to find out the situation. I mean, seeing the situation, you have to take the decision that what you can provide. But you have to just, decide that to what level of access you want to provide. Now, if I now see that Indian priorities, now here coming again to, there are 7 universal design principles which are accepted globally, that Shombi, So now, I'm not just discussing all those because I don't want to make it a class lecture, but for India, I think the priorities might be slightly different. So way back in 2011, we had worked on this and we came up with, 5 S for India, which are Saman, Sahaj, Sanskritik, Sasta, Sundar. Because you have to come up with solutions in India, in Kolkata context, which is pragmatic, which may be affordable, which may be easily doable using the local material, and which is also maybe culturally acceptable.
Very important.
So, and also, the aesthetic part, say, again coming back
Sundar,
to this Durga Puja.
Yeah.
If I just come up with an uncouth ramp and then the puja committee members would just not do it. Or maybe some kind of a signage contrast which they're not going with their theme, they will just not do it. So that's why you have to choose a very contextual situation. So that's what I think is important for any Indian city. So these 3 things again, a proper audit to know where we stand and which sector needs priority. Second is, this what level of accessibility we want to achieve. And the third one is this pragmatic part. And now if I talk about that now as a city planner, I mean, we have to have, this thing integrated into the basic urban planning. It cannot be an additional
As an
layer.
afterthought, like it
cannot be an additional layer. Like when we are designing the city transportation system, the mobility plan. I think we have to have this inclusiveness in that urban mobility plan integrated into that. If it is, as you very rightly said, this afterthought is, so I think that's all from my end.
I have been schooled, and how? I think
I'm so sorry.
I'm just coming out of Dr. Banerjee's class, master class. I'm sweating on Maha Ashtami.
There's no exam.
There is no. Yeah, I think the fact that I've been sort of made sense of some of these things in my head, and hopefully going forward, this episode has also helped me understand how ill-equipped I am to truly empathize, because it's just a lack of examples in my own life which has led me to be blissfully unaware of most of these things that we spoke about. So the learnings for me have been, profound, and I hope that for our viewers as well, it is going to be very, very interesting. With that note, Priyanka, before we finish, আমাদের যারা আজকে দেখছে, তুমি কি আগে কখনো টিভিতে বা পডকাস্ট কখনো এসছো, কখনো কথা বলেছো?
হ্যাঁ, আমার আগে হচ্ছে 2021 সালে করোনার সময় 2021 সালে এপ্রিল মাসে বাংলা হচ্ছে বাংলা মিঠুন চক্রবর্তী একটা তখন আমি গিয়েছিলাম। হ্যাঁ, ওখানে আমার পরিচয় একটু কথা বলেছে, তখন আমি গিয়েছিলাম। তারপর একটা হচ্ছে 2023 সালে মার্চ মাসে আমি আমেরিকা গিয়েছিলাম। আমেরিকা চারটি জায়গায় গিয়েছিলাম: ওয়াশিংটন, বস্টন, শিকাগো, আটলান্টা। ওখানে ওটা হচ্ছে সব, হ্যাঁ, ওটা হচ্ছে ইন্টারন্যাশনাল ভিজিটর লিটারেসি প্রোগ্রাম। একটা হচ্ছে সব প্রতিবদ্ধকতা, কোথায় অ্যাসেসিবিলিটি, সব দেখতে গেছিলাম। বিভিন্ন জায়গায় কোনো পাঠা নেই, সব বাচ্চাতে। একটা হচ্ছে ইউনিভার্সিটি হচ্ছে ক্যালকাটা ইউনিভার্সিটি, ওটা ওয়াশিংটন ক্যালকাটা ইউনিভার্সিটি। ওখানে অনেক অসুবিধা নেই, সব কলেজে সব টেফ, মানে টিচার টেফ, প্রিন্সিপাল টেফ, সব টেফ। কোন পাতানে সব কমিউনিকেশন খুব সহজ হয়। ওখানে টেফ ইউনিভার্সিটি সব ইন্টারপ্রিটার পড়াশোনা করেছে, সব শিখছে। বিভিন্ন জায়গায় অ্যাসেসিবিলিটি খুব কমে গেছে। হোটেল, তারপর হসপিটাল, তারপর বিভিন্ন জায়গায় সব কমিউনিকেশন সব ইন্টারপ্রিটার থাকছে। তারপর অ্যাটলান্টা একটা টেফ স্কুল আছে, ওখানে টিচার হচ্ছে প্রিন্সিপাল। তারপরে ওখানে বিভিন্ন সব টিচার, সব রকমের সব প্রিন্সিপাল টিচার সব টেফ, কোনো অসুবিধা নেই। খুব ভালো লেগেছে ওখানে গিয়ে। আমি এখানে এসে সবাইকে বুঝিয়ে দিয়েছি।
তো তখন তোমার যে এই এক্সপিরিয়েন্সগুলো হয়েছিল, আর সেটার থেকে আজকে এই দুর্গাপুজোতে প্রথমবার দুর্গাপুজোর মধ্যে একটা অ্যাক্সেসিবিলিটি, ইনক্লুসিভিটি নিয়ে আসা, প্রতিবন্ধ যারা আছে তাদের জন্য, তারপর সেখান থেকে আজকে এই পডকাস্টে আসা, এইটার জার্নিটা কি আর খুব আলাদা ছিল? কি ভালো লেগেছে, কি খারাপ লেগেছে, যদি আমাদের একটু শেয়ার করো।
হ্যাঁ, দুর্গাপূজা এখানে দুর্গাপূজা মানে সব জায়গায় অ্যাক্সেসিবিলিটি নেই, কম। সব ঠিক আছে, তারপর তো একটু আছে এখানে সব জায়গায়, মানে কিছু 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 অ্যাক্সেসিবিলিটি সব ঠিক আছে। বাকিগুলো একটা হচ্ছে এখানে দেখলাম বিভিন্ন জায়গায়, মানে একটু এখানে শীতে আছে, নাকতলা বিভিন্ন জায়গায় এখানে শীতে আছে। একটা বাচ্চা উলছে দেখছি, চিনতে পারলা, মানে ঠিক আছে চিনতে পারলো, চলে এসেছে। হ্যাঁ, মানে খুব ভালো লেগেছে, খুব ভালো লেগেছে। মানে সবাই সবাই জানার দরকার আছে। ঠিক আছে,
সবাই আর ইনাদের সাথে আলাপ করে ভালো লেগেছে? ইনাদের চিনতে আগের থেকে?
না, এখানে দেখেছিলাম কোথায়, এখানে জায়গায়
শিশির মঞ্চে।
হ্যাঁ, শিশির মঞ্চ দেখেছিলাম।
তো একসাথে আরো কাজ করতে হবে, তো অনেক কিছু করতে হবে কলকাতার জন্য।
হ্যাঁ,
ঠিক আছে,
ঠিক আছে।
তাহলে এই এই সূত্রেই আমার মনে হয় আজকের পডকাস্টটা আমরা এখানে শেষ করি। লেটস ব্রিং our podcast today to an end. A lot of lessons, a lot of introspection perhaps required, but I guess there's one common unifying message out of all of this, that today perhaps there is more reasons to be hopeful and optimistic than ever before, because I guess we are on the right path, and our actions in the days to come will determine how accessible, how inclusive, how sustainable our cities will be, and how our festivals will be, how our human experiences will be. Until then, I will incite our audiences, all of them who are watching this podcast, that maybe try and find relatable examples close to you. Maybe that's one way that you can truly have a better understanding of people with disabilities. It's an easier, more relatable situation when it affects somebody that you have a personal relationship with, rather than seeing somebody on a TV or on a video, whatever it is. And in that process, in that communication, and without any judgment, without any barriers, if you're able to communicate with them and find a common ground, I think that will definitely help build more relatability with those people, and help you also become a better citizen that cares more about the people who are around. So at the end of the day, the success of our society and of our culture is only going to be as good or as fast as the slowest ones that we are sharing this earth with. So thank you very much for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a lovely conversation.
Shubho Sharodya.
Shubho Sharodya.
Wow, Shubho
Thank you.
Sharodya.
I hope it's going to make, I believe because this episode is going to come out like in a couple of months from now, perhaps, by the time it takes to edit and put it on, because it's a special episode on top of that. But by the time it does come out to people, hearing Shubho Sharodya is going to make them very, very nostalgic. And it's going to make them very sad sitting, because Durga Puja is the time when we are the happiest ever. People are going to be already thinking about, oh my God, can't wait for next year's Durga Puja. So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. See you on the next episode of Make Calcutta Relevant Again, the podcast. This is Meghdut signing off. Thank you so much for all the love and support that you give us, and keep making Calcutta relevant, keep making your lives relevant by communicating with those around you, and finding relatable points to find a common ground with them. Thank you so much. Namaskar. Shubho Sharodya.
Make Calcutta relevant again. You already know. Relevant again.